All right, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus podcast presented by BuffaloPlus.com. Mike Catalana, Dan Fates. I'm Jenna Cottrell. We have a lot to talk to. The Buffalo Bills now 3-0. We're going to chat about Josh Allen's performance. Another strong day from him. Is he in the MVP conversation? We're also going to talk about the Bills' defense, if there's any concerns, any panic, or should there be, as well as Gabriel Davis. Could he be the steal of this draft? And if fans, are they going to be allowed for the Bills to be back in the stadium by the Kansas City game? We're going to discuss everything. But Josh Allen, another day, he led the Bills offense down. A tight win over the Rams, fourth quarter comeback. I mean, I feel like we always talk about Josh, but you got to talk about Josh. Right, Mike?
You deserve conversations about Josh Allen, right? Let's look at it this way. When we talked about his progress for a season, you looked at Mahomes his first year starting, spectacular. Then you looked at Lamar in just his second year starting and full year and the way he played and got an MVP. Did anybody think Josh was going to be taking this big of a step? And this is what you're looking for, right? It's his third year of starting. I'm not going to be on pace guy, Dan, but even if the numbers are 80% of what he's doing, he's going to have a spectacular year, and that at least puts him in that conversation.
I see. Mike always has this joke around the sports office was like, if somebody does something great, it's like, here comes on pace guy. It's kind of fun. I like on pace guy because Josh is on pace for a lot of things.
Yeah. If people don't understand, sometimes on pace guy is the guy who is like, a guy hits 2 homers in the first major league game of a regular season. And he says, he's on pace for 324 homers. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's not going to happen. But after Sunday, we'll be a quarter of the way through the season.
Yeah.
That's legitimate. That's at least 25% of the year, right?
No, and it's funny because I feel like we've talked about it too. And not that we've coined the phrase, but on a lot of our stuff on Buffalo Plus and here on the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel, we talked about the Josh Allen experience.
I think we did coin that phrase.
Oh, I didn't put in the trademark yet. I didn't put it in yet, but I'll make sure that. Yeah, we did. It's ours. But like, we talked about like the craziness and all of these things. It was really good. Then it was really bad. And then it was really clutch. And I feel like that's the epitome of right now of what the Josh Allen experience is. And looking back on it and we post all this sound from teammates and just saying that they can't believe how much of a competitor Josh is and how he was calm and poised and all of these things. And I myself was one of the people that when the Patriots were talking about Jarrett Stidham and they were like, oh, we love this guy. He's so great. And I was like, dude, they don't love him. It's different when he's come out and done it now. Like it's, you know what I'm saying? Like he's now backed up all of the things that the teammates said about him during training camp and how he looks different and how he was different in the huddle. Now, all of a sudden, Josh looks like the guy that the Bills thought he could be. And it was a project, but you're just seeing this. Now, Johnny, you were at the game on Sunday, but when things went south, things went real south. And Mike looked at me and we looked at each other and we were like, this is Houston. This is like hike the ball. And it was Josh was just like, oh my gosh. Like, what's going on? Like, where do I go?
And then right after that, he had that play on the sidelines where he tried to pitch the ball. And I'm like, oh my, it really is Houston.
Yeah.
It was everything that was that was great for the first 2.5 games of Josh's season. Just went right out the window and just went right back to second half of Houston. And then for somehow, on 3rd and 22, when you were like, this is the game, I can't believe they lost it. He converts it, throwing across his body over the middle to Cole Beasley. Unreal arm strength, and obviously they get a favorable call. But to have that composure, to not only give up a 25-point lead, but then with 4 minutes left to come back and make a huge drive, that's the definition of clutch. He's now had 10 game-winning drives. He's had 8 fourth-quarter comebacks. Like, I don't know what else you want me to – like, I don't know what else – like, I don't know.
Now – we were having this discussion, Dan. You weren't in the sports office. So, Dan, you believe that Josh Allen is clutch. Now, obviously, the talk in sports is the clutch gene. You can't teach that, being able to perform under pressure. Mike, you've seen a lot. Here's our talk of Mike being old. We just want to insert that into the podcast. You've seen a lot.
Off here for a second. Let me wake up. Okay, go ahead.
past your bedtime.
You've seen a lot of football.
Yeah.
It's a smaller sample size, but we have seen Josh be able to finish off these fourth quarter drives. Do you believe that Allen is clutch?
I think he's wired that way. Now, it's not going to happen every time, but he does have the ability to make plays when he needs to. A good example is, the Houston game. It didn't finish the way he wanted, but he did make clutch plays in that game. And if it weren't for a few calls, he might have won the playoff game. But in other games, he doesn't appear to get rattled. It's odd. It's almost as if when the other team takes the lead, like what happened with Fitz last week, what happened in this game, he sort of calms down. Now, then he gets excited. It's sort of like he has sort of like some ADD moments where he can't handle just being calm. And instead of just waiting it out, he gets a little wound up and he tries to make it all happen in one play. But the thing about him is, like you said, Dan, he's facing 3rd and 22. Normally in those circumstances, they'll say, if you get behind the sticks, it kills you in those drives. It doesn't faze him. It really doesn't. And Jenna, the big thing too is it's one thing if we believe it. He believes it, and guess who else believes it? His teammates believe it. They think he's going to do it, and he's been doing it.
And it's funny because to make that fourth quarter comeback on Sunday, he also had to play really poorly, and the Bills had to stall very badly to allow that to happen. Like, it's weird. He even kind of stalled in the Miami game a little bit where they went stale in the third quarter. Like, he's not consistent. He's still not fully consistent. But, like, again, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have every single drive. Like, everybody's going to have 3 and outs. But it's just like when other teams get rolling and the momentum starts to swing, Josh seems to get those ADD moments there where it's like, okay, the game's kind of swinging against me. I got to do something special. And then all of a sudden, that's bad. And then when it's like, all right, well, now we're down, deep breath, and then he goes and makes the play. It's a really weird dynamic because they shouldn't have to come back in that game.
That is my thing. Like, yes, don't get me wrong. Josh made some dumb plays. He was scrambling for his life. It looked like he couldn't in the third later. Like, he wasn't comfortable in the pocket, would immediately roll out. But the defense allowed the Rams to get back in that game. Like, Josh put up, they were up by 25 points. Yeah. I can kind of understand being a little bit more lackadaisical in terms of, all right, they scored finally in the third quarter. We can kind of
Josh admitted that.
I'm not saying that's the mindset you should have, but I can understand from a point of, okay, yeah, we should be able to close this game out.
Yeah, Jenna's making a good point. I mean, Allen had his moments, but come on, fellas, it's 28-3, and you let the Rams score, and then look, I get it that it was a bad call on the interception, right? First of all, it was a terrible decision by Allen. Croft actually made a pretty smart play if he could have gotten away with the push, but he didn't. But he did appear to come down with the ball. That being said, even if they don't call it an interception, the Bills are 1st and 30 back in their own territory. It would have been 2 straight penalties. The likelihood, even for Josh Allen, is that you're punting. The issue was not the interception. Yes, that was big. The issue was the defense let them score in 3 plays. And then they got it back after a turnover, and they scored in like 7 plays. Then they got it back again. They scored again. So that defense really, it's so odd, isn't it, guys, that it's like we know the offense is going to do its job. Can the defense keep up?
And that's where I want to see Josh turn into that veteran and this offense take that next step consistency-wise, because after the Rams go down and score, a first down is huge. Like offensively, like just not going 3 and out, and the defense going back out there, and the Rams, Goff and those guys just like itching to get back out there, and then you let them get right back out there. Like that's huge. Like that's where Josh, I feel like, struggles at times to stop the momentum from getting to like all of a sudden the Rams getting, okay, they got a touchdown, it's still whatever, and then it's like, well, just don't go 3 and out, and they go 3 and out, and you're like, okay, well now the defense has got to make a play, and then they don't, and you're like, okay, now we're sitting there, we're like, this is a game. Like, I had to rewrite 3 web stories. Like, it was a mess.
Has he apologized to you for having to do some extra
work? No, he
Yeah.
apologized to the Marcel from ESPN, which was great.
Oh, that he apologized for it. But Jenna, you know, it's funny. We talked about the MVP thing. Well, the guy who's leading is Russell Wilson, is playing the game at a different level than everybody else. And Dan talks about that control and being in those spots. I watch Russell Wilson play, and I don't think he's ever going to have a 3-and-out right now. He has no defense behind him, and their defense is terrible. And he just 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's in control. There's none of that. He never looks rattled. The guy doesn't. He's a different vibe. I got to tell you, as great as Mahomes is, there are times he's all over the place. He's just so spectacular. He makes up for it. I think Josh could get to some of that, Jenna, but I don't think he's ever going to be that guy. I think by the time his time is done in Buffalo, you two watching him might have as much gray hair as I do. How about that?
Okay.
But Mike, let me ask.
I'll dye my hair.
I don't mean from age.
I've got a kid, so I'm already there. I got a 2-month-old. But Mike, I didn't watch Jim Kelly play.
Yeah.
Wasn't Kelly kind of that Favre gunslinger, short memory where he would throw 3 interceptions in the first half and then throw 3 touchdowns in the second half? Wasn't that kind of him?
Oh, yeah. He didn't care. Like, he would throw picks. I will have to say, even back then, quarterbacks threw more interceptions than they do now. The throws weren't maybe as the offenses maybe weren't as, I'll say, complicated. And defenses played things a little differently. The defenses could beat the heck out of wide receivers. So there were more interceptions. I think Kelly one time had, I should remember this, either 4 interceptions against the Steelers, but ended up throwing 6 touchdown passes. Like, that's what he could do. Kelly he just was relentless at going after teams. And they were, those Bills teams would win 12 games, but they'd always have a couple that were that way. But I see him more in that mode than he is in the, calm, relaxed. That's not Josh Allen, Jenna. I don't think it's ever going to be him.
I think he's a very emotional guy, whether he likes to portray that off the field or not. I think when he's playing,
he got flagged for it.
Yeah, which I was surprised to see, but also I can understand the frustrations and boiling over at that point. I think my thing is we knew he was going to be a project coming out. Everyone was talking about the second year. This is where quarterbacks really take that jump. And we didn't really see a huge market impression of like, wow, Josh got so much better. But to see him now this year and how much more comfortable he's been, and the fact that he's been able to complete game-winning drives once again against the Rams, which is a great defense, Aaron Donald, I just see him as he's always going to have that backyard football in his blood, I feel like. But I have now the path of seeing him continue to get better and to continue to rein it in. And I feel like as you mature, you kind of have less of that emotion. I don't know. That's just me. I think.
Right, except the guy he really is the most like in that way is Favre. He really is. And Favre had some of the dumbest plays you will ever see. He just did.
Well, he was 40. Like, he didn't outgrow it.
He never outgrew it.
Yeah, but just because one player is like that does not mean another player will be.
No, it's the way you're wired. It's the way you're wired. And guys, that goes back to the greatest story that we heard from the Wyoming coach. That goes back to the Wyoming coach when the play was, and I asked Greg Bold to tell me his best story, and they were going through spring practice, and the play was designed to go to the fullback, and Josh rolled out and threw a 45-yard touchdown over the middle, and coach goes, that's great, but you got to hit the fullback. And he goes, no, coach, Brett Favre says touchdowns first. Like, that's who Josh is wired.
I agree, but I also think when you're playing in the NFL and you continue, okay, come on, you can't tell me.
I'm with Dan. I think he's got a Romo vibe to him. For if you're looking for someone a little more recently, where Romo would do some amazing things and did some really dumb ones, had some terrible interceptions, bad turnovers, lost the ball, but he could make some plays that were just spectacular. And he never grew out of it. He quit playing because he got hurt, but Romo was still Romo all the way through. Josh is never going to be
Captain Checkdown.
Button down. No, that's not going to be him.
I'm not saying there's a way though to bring the gamer out of him, but also we talked about, okay, come on. I'm talking about short-term versus long-term. Like
this is short-term. He only has one interception.
That extra yard. But I feel like with the maturation process and knowing how important you are to your team,
I just don't think in this guy it's going to change, and I don't think I want to change it. I think if you lose that part of Josh, you're going to lose that other part of Josh.
I don't think they're like mutual. I don't think they have to be mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
You don't get a guy that's going to stop running over linebackers. He's just not. And Jenna, he was asked about what it is that allows him to do these things, and he said, I just want it more. Like bottom line. I know it's just one line, but he was asked about running over Kyle Van Noy, and he goes, wasn't the smartest thing, but I'll do whatever it takes. Like, that's how he's going to go out. Like, that's how Josh is going to play his entire career, the good, the bad, and the ugly. He's going to throw that ball that he threw to Tyler Kroft was a dumb decision, just like the dumb decision he threw to Pat DeMarco in Houston, and he'll do it in 2 more years. He'll throw it to double coverage, and we'll go, that was stupid. But then he'll lead them back down the field and score a touchdown the next. Like, you're going to get that. You're never going to get a Trent Edwards, Alex Smith vibe out of Josh Allen.
You don't even have to be that. You can still be very successful and be a more buttoned-up guy. I think of Troy Aikman. I think of Eli Manning, right? Those kind of guys were much more – excuse me?
Eli Manning? That's gross.
Eli Manning is in yards. He's got 2 Super Bowl championships. He will likely end up in the Hall of Fame. I'm saying is Eli did it that way, and he never changed. He never changed because that's who he was. Troy Aikman was an intense system sort of quarterback, but he was extremely accurate, rarely made those different types of plays out of the pocket, but he was great at what he did. Now, you get a guy like Steve Young, very different than Joe Montana, the way they get it done. Steve Young never changed as a player. He was still trying to run, still trying to make plays all the way to winning the Super Bowl. So I think it's who he is. Jenna, I don't think it's ever.
I'm not saying you have to, I don't think you would have the ability to coach that all out of him. He's going to have that. But I also think there is a way to make some smarter decisions.
Okay, so here's what it is.
In 5 years, let's see.
Here's what it is, Dan. I'm going to say this. I'm going to get in trouble for saying it, but I'm going to say it anyhow.
I don't want to be wrong.
Thinks men can change.
It's my fatal flaw.
It doesn't happen. This is who we are.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I learned the lesson.
And by the way, while we're saying all this, he's got a great surrounding cast of players now.
Yes.
I mean, Diggs is outstanding, and they hit on it with Gabe Davis. I'm telling you, that kid is going to earn the second wide receiver spot on this team, and that's not going to be a negative against John Brown. I think this guy is going to be a really good player in the NFL because he does so many things well. Josh
is so much more comfortable and confident that he is making throws, trusting that he has the talent in wide receivers that he never thought about. Josh has thrown a couple of balls that before Diggs has even turned around. He's thrown a couple of these jump balls where he's never even thought about making those throws in 2 years because he didn't have a guy that he could rely on to come up with that. He's throwing more 50-50 balls than he has ever had in his career, and he's done it in just 3 games. Like, the touch that he has on his throws, just throwing the ball and knowing that his guys are going to get to a spot. It's really impressive to see because he is making – Mike and I always like to talk about the golf analogies. Like, on the opening drive, threw a ball deep. It was a bad throw. Or even the throw to Stephon Diggs, that was low. That's a bogey. We talk about that's a bogey. Josh is making more birdie throws this year than he ever has in his entire career. And he's consistently birdieing holes as compared to when he was parring and double bogeying holes.
Yes. And that's no way to make money on the tour. By the way, he also used to throw to Zay Jones. So, by the way, we mentioned Zay the other day. Great to see him get a touchdown in the game.
Touchdown.
That's a guy I root for. it just didn't work out in Buffalo, but he root for. But, like Robert Foster was his big hitter as a rookie. Like, look at who he's throwing to now. I mean, and let's also give a little credit to Cole Beasley, who was so good on Sunday. And he made huge plays, 100 yards, got him down the sidelines. Like, if Beasley doesn't make those plays, get into that spot. I know where Josh gets credit for the pass. I mean, Beasley was great in that game. And by the way, Beasley also is the president of the Josh Allen fan club.
Oh my gosh. He's so passionate when he talks about him.
Can I be the president of the Brian Daboll fan club? Because Brian Daboll got TJ Yeldon, Tyler Kroft, and Lee Smith all involved in the offense.
Yeah. Don't forget about Reggie Gilliam.
In the week before,
Yep.
Kim Jones was talking to him today and called it, one of the drives was pretty much featured Yeldon, Gabe Davis, Tyler Kroft, and Lee Smith, and she called it a Brian Daboll flex. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. She goes, you showed that you didn't need your star players. They could be on the sideline. And it's like Brian Daboll just being like, I know whatever I'm doing. I can insert pieces. Like, Lee Smith hasn't dressed yet this season.
Yeah.
And goes out there, takes one offensive snap, and scores a touchdown on 4th and goal. Like,
and how did he celebrate after the game?
Moonshine.
Probably with a couple of beverages. No, actually, he's a big red wine guy. That's actually what nowadays. Yes. He's more red wine. His wife's gotten him into it. More red wine.
I always love Lee Smith. Normally before a game, all the players are running out of the tunnel to go to the warm-ups, getting ready. Lee Smith will walk around the field drinking a cup of coffee.
It's awesome.
I love
that. That is fantastic. By the way, while we're mentioning this, how about Tyler Kroft? That's a guy who last year, while everything was going pretty well for this team, he was a forgotten guy. He had that injury, but he made a big play in the Pittsburgh game. And look at what he did Sunday. He's not getting enough credit for that catch. I mean, it was an excellent throw by Josh, but that was a really good catch. I'm talking about on the game winner.
Yeah.
And give him
a couple.
Yeah. And right now, Tyler Kroft's a big upgrade over Dawson Knox. And Knox will be back, but Kroft is a experienced pass catcher.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he really helped out this week.
I mean, that was the best performance we've seen from a Bills tight end this season.
Yeah, no doubt.
The fact that he had multiple touchdowns, a game-winning touchdown. So the Bills' offense has been kind of driving the bus, but I feel like we do have to talk about the Bills' defense. Dan, what is there reason to be concerned?
Yes, no question. And earlier last week, before this Rams game, after giving up 28 points, Ed Oliver said it was uncharacteristic that they gave up 28 points to Miami. And he said that, things are going to change. Well, now you gave up 32 to the Rams, which granted they're a much better team, but they had no problem marching up and down the field. Trey White got burned. Tremaine Edmonds didn't look great. Matt Milano is a star, and he may be the most important player on the Bills defense. He's going to get paid by somebody this offseason. I really hope it's Buffalo, but there are concerns, and I wonder if now there is enough tape. There's so many years of these same guys. Yeah. I wonder if good offensive minds are starting to just find a couple of soft spots and weaknesses. Everybody today was asking the coaches about how much they missed Star Latulele just because of, they got the ball ran down their throats by Darrell Henderson. But I think the Rams are just a good running team, and the Bills just aren't a great run-stopping team. And this was a big step up. And I thought Leslie Frazier said it best. Obviously, they gave up 28 points, but Leslie even kind of said the last touchdown against Miami was a who cares touchdown. It was Fitz, of course, playing way too hard until the end of the game. But, yeah, I think there are concerns moving forward about, Levi Wallace did come up with a pick, but, man, I don't know. I think there is reason to be concerned that this offense or that this defense is being exposed a little bit. And I just wonder if it's the same guys been there for 3-4 years. It's the same system, and teams are now starting to pick up on it.
I mean, that's
what I see them giving up. And I think to Dan's point about what teams are picking up on, first of all, they're running straight at them, power running, and they're going to get Jacobs this week in Vegas. And two, instead of trying to throw down the sidelines, they really don't. Teams are getting the Bills with guys crossing into the middle of the field. And whether that's slants, whether that's just guys getting in the middle of the zone, you look at the one when Cooper Kupp beat Trey White, got him going across the field. It appears to be, again, we're not pretending to be all 22 experts, but it appears to be those crossing routes are really causing them issues. Obviously, it did against Miami, and it did again this week. So that is a real concern going forward, especially, Jenna, with the quarterbacks they're going to be facing over the next, rest of the season, but especially over the next few weeks.
That's what I think is the most troubling, is just the fact that there are such a tough schedule ahead. And for this team to be in the playoff conversation, or not the playoff conversation, the playoffs are expected, but for the type of expectations that we've talked about, and we talked about earlier for Josh, the MVP conversation, like your team has to be able to perform, and you're going to have a very tough schedule ahead. And to see the soft spots and just, the Rams were marching up and down the field at will. Like those second half adjustments that they made. And it's startling to see that, because that's not normally how the Bills look.
And also, it's also an understanding too of just it is a step up in weight class. Like we joked around that there was the preseason, the first two games, but like here we are, the team is 3-0. They've come out with wins. Josh got them done. Like we talked about it during the Let's Talk Football live show on Thursdays, that there are now higher expectations for this team. They're no longer just playoff expectations. It's no longer just playoff caliber shirts. It's now championship caliber shirts. Like this is what it is now. So like we are going to nitpick them with a more fine-tooth comb, because guess what? The Packers and the Patriots, like good teams have more criticism because of, wow, they only won by 7 points.
Yeah.
They should have beat this team by 14. Like that's where it's going to be weird that like us in the media and fans are going to have to deal with that, because it is a different ball game now for this team with expectations.
But here's the other thing to keep in mind, and I know they're slight favorites this week, but now these, including this game they just played, in the next three, they could play well and lose all three of those games. I didn't say great, but they could play pretty well. They don't have to play lousy to lose in Vegas. They don't have to play lousy to lose in Nashville, and they don't have to play lousy to lose to Kansas City. So you are stepping up, and it's week after week, and it's offenses that can hurt you, just like the Rams did. So, yes, Jenna, to your original point, it's a concern about the defense, and McDermott is a head coach, but, man, he is first and foremost a defensive guy, and I think he's alarmed. Embarrassed is the wrong word. That's not it is. It's getting at his pride to have his defense give up what they've given up.
I think now his defense is at the top of the list of football things that keep him up at night.
Yes.
Very good.
It is no longer Josh Allen's progress.
No longer. Who would have thought? I did think Leslie Frazier had a good little bit today, though, where he said, he's not exactly excited, obviously, about the way his defense is playing, but at the same point, you don't want to play your best ball in September. Like there's the progression that you have to go through.
The Bills defense went through this a little bit last year when Philly ran over them and Cleveland ran over them. They got things buttoned up down the stretch of the season. They also didn't play necessarily the most potent offenses toward the end of the season, like if we're going to be real. So like these are real offenses that they're playing. The Rams are no joke, especially when they're playing at this caliber. Mike makes a great point, as always, when we talk about scheduling. It's not who you play, it is when you play them. They got the Rams at a very good time. The Rams may not be the same in the playoffs or in week 15 or 16. So,
yeah, because the Rams were tired from running in the end zone against the Eagles so many times.
Hey, did the Philly win a Super Bowl, though?
Some time ago. It's 100 years
ago. Short memory. All right, so the Bills will be on the road for a little bit. They're heading to Vegas. They're in Nashville. The Chiefs game is the next home game for Buffalo, Thursday night game. Now, there's some talk that there will be some fans. I know Bills Mafia is certainly excited. Mike, do you think that this will happen?
Well, the talk is because I believe the Bills have sort of approached the state to see if this can happen. We kept hearing for a while that this is what they were pointing to. If I'm saying this now, 2+ weeks away from it, I think there will be fans. I think there's going to be a small percentage. I think it's going to be the suites. It could be the suites and a small pocket, maybe families. Like, I don't know. I believe that by the time they play that game, hopefully the numbers stay low, that the Bills will allow fans. Dan?
Yeah, I think so too. I just don't see how they could want that miss that opportunity as long as things are still going well. Like you said, with numbers, I think McDermott may be pushing forward a little bit too. He keeps saying how much he misses the Bills Mafia. I think they will try and do everything they can safely to have fans at the game.
Yeah, I agree. I could definitely see it. And you know that the Bills, they missed Bills Mafia on Sunday against the Rams, especially in that third quarter. Yep. So aren't any picks in terms of this week? I'm just going to do, what do you think in terms of the game, win, loss? We won't get into our specific picks. We'll have those on Let's Talk Football on Thursday. But Mike?
I think the Bills are the better team than the Raiders, but the Raiders scare me. And the timing is odd just because of the stretch they're going to be in. They're not going to win all three of these games. I mean, that would be fantastic if they could. I think it's going to be tough. I'll see how we go as the week goes on. I look at them a little bit more, but I'm leaning a little bit towards the Raiders knocking them off.
Okay. Dan, quickly.
I'll take the Bills, hot hand, emotional win. I think they continue rolling. I'm not jumping off the bandwagon now.
All right. Me too. I'm going Bills. All right. We'll have more coverage on BuffaloPlus.com. Make sure to subscribe. Thank you so much for listening to the Buffalo Plus podcast for Mike Catalana and Dan Fates. I'm Jenna Cottrell.